Welcome to the Sacred Spaces Conservancy Podcast. My name is Michael. I'm the Exec Director of Sacred Spaces Conservancy. And today I have someone I'm really excited for you to meet. We had an amazing conversation about revitalization and church health and those things. And I'm here today with
Colin Pugh from Clinton Baptist Church, where I serve as a revitalization pastor, also with Sin Network as an urban revitalization renewal specialist.
That's a handful. So before we get into all the stuff everybody wants to hear about, I want to know a little bit more about your background. Take a few minutes and catch us up. How did you get to where you are now? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm the baby of 10. I have a twin sister. Always was spoiled as a child.
Yeah.
My dad wasn't into my life, but my mom did an amazing job. She was a registered nurse and took care of all 10 of us. We grew up in D.C. on 4th and L, where I'm very proud of. Had a great childhood and wonderful family environment, and just was instilled in me to work hard as a young age. Just growing up in D.C., seeing a single mother raising 10 children on her own was and getting up in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and then coming down the street with bags of groceries in her hand at 3:30. Always was a exciting moment for me to see my mom come home, but also learning that hard work pays off.
That's interesting because we do have that in common, although I'm the youngest of 8.
Okay.
Right? Single mom. My mother sounds a lot like your mother, but mothers were built like that.
Yes.
When did you meet Jesus? Were you always around the church, or how'd that come about?
So actually, my mom was Catholic, and her thing was, I'm a Catholic because I can get in and get out. That was her thing. Yeah, that was her thing. So we did go to Catholic school as a young. All my sisters and brothers went to Catholic school. Unfortunately, I got put out in the 2nd grade. I just didn't meet the Catholic standard. So in 2000, me and my wife and I was building a house in Forestville, waiting for the house to be built, and then all of a sudden it didn't happen. So we moved in with my mother-in-law, which lived in Northwest, and my father-in-law lived in Northwest in a basement for a couple of months. And at that time, God was just speaking to me, like, you need to go get closer to God. You need to go get closer to God. And at that time, I didn't know what that meant because I didn't grow up in church. I didn't participate in any church events. Although we live right across the street from a church, I never stepped foot in there. The only reason why we went into a church is because of funerals.
Right.
So I went back to what I knew was the Catholic Church on that Sunday, and my wife and I looked at each other and was like, we ain't feeling this. And then once that house fell through that we was building that we didn't get, we found a guy named Mr. Bill who worked in foreclosures, and he said, hey, I got a house for y'all. And we said, okay. And it was in Lake Arbor, and we moved in, got the house, moved in, and we moved next door to a pastor. And at the time, God was already churning my heart, and we moved next door to a pastor. And at that time, he helped us understand how God loves us and things like that. And then we wind up going to Kettering Baptist Church, where we went to at first and we didn't like it. And then we went back, and we both gave our life to Christ in April of 2000 at the same time.
Wow. And when did you first sense a call to ministry?
That's an interesting question because I never sensed the call to ministry.
Nice.
I was more directed.
Tell me about
that. So under our leadership of Pastor Sterling, who's my pastor, called, said, hey, I have this class that I'm trying to get some young men in because he was there new too, and he was trying to really establish his leadership and disciple men. So it was probably about 23 of us that he called, and we didn't know each other. We all different backgrounds and everything. And now coming in, we started off with experiencing God. And we went through experiencing God. Then we went to survival kit. And then next thing you know, he got us sitting up there talking about we being ordained for deacons. And I'm like, a deacon? Like, what is a deacon? I had no clue. And that was the way that he kind of led us into leadership and ministry. And I was working with the young people as a building engineer, because I was a building engineer at World Bank for 11 years in DC. And as a young person in the faith, I was working with the youth. And then the youth pastor position opened up. And at the time, I was just a deacon. I wasn't even a youth minister or a pastor. And it took off from there. And that's where I found that God was calling me to ministry, and that this is a calling that God has on my life.
That's amazing. So now you're youth pastor and you're doing youth ministry.
Yes.
How did you get from youth ministry to Clinton Baptist Church?
Okay. So at this time as a youth pastor, I had an opportunity to grow as a man, grow as a husband, grow as a father, grow in my Christian walk. I now left being a building engineer in 2005 to go work for the church, which taking a $45,000 pay cut at that time to come work for Clinton Baptist Church as a youth leader, because I wasn't licensed as a minister yet, nor as a pastor. And then that came later. And just working with the youth, just seeing God work through, used me to just disciple young people, and our ministry grew. We probably had about 90 youth every Wednesday in Awana. Had awesome success in youth ministry and just watching God work. Then I was licensed as a minister, then ordained as a pastor, still working at Kettering as the youth pastor. Then after that, I was the youth pastor and a pastor of administration there because I have some pretty good organization skills. Mm-hmm. And so just growing in that position, and I always believed that God was calling me to be an assistant pastor. I didn't want to be, at that time, I didn't want to be a pastor. I wanted to be assistant pastor because I understood that there are a lot of pastors that don't have qualified, healthy men in their life that don't want their position, but to help their dreams grow.
Right.
And God, and I was just stuck there. So now 15 years has passed, I'm getting older, and it's like, okay, in youth ministry, I have 39 volunteers under my leadership to lead the youth ministry. Youth ministry was easy. It was easy. It wasn't challenging anymore. And all of a sudden, I got an email that Clinton Baptist Church was looking for a pastor. And I did previous work at Clinton Baptist Church. Matter of fact, we had a service there because I was the Prince George's County youth pastor for the Baptist Association for 2 years. And we did gatherings at Clinton Baptist Church. And then the announcement came, and they would look for a pastor. And I called all the pastors at at Kettering at the time, and asked them, because we all got the same email, and say, hey, are y'all looking at this position? Because if you are, I'm not going to be in competition with any of you all. But if you're not, I'm going to go ahead and apply. So I applied for it. I was told it was over 100 applicants. I was in the top 7, then the top 5, and then I was chosen to be the pastor. Well, not chosen, but voted in to be the pastor in June of 2019. But I didn't accept it until August of 2019.
Okay.
And so what took me so long to accept it, there were some things they had to work out coming from a church that I was full-time at and being compensated. They had no money to compensate me. It was no salary. But I know God was calling me there. As a matter of fact, even it was so strong of the calling that God was calling me to Clinton that before I even got voted in, he gave me the vision. We grow, we serve, we love, Acts chapter 2, verse 40 through 47. He gave me 12 sermons, title, text, and everything. 12 sermons when he gave me that vision. 12 sermons with the text and a title.
Wow.
Back to back. and I just started going over there, engaging in the community because I never visit Clinton because I'm an Upper Marlboro, DC guy. So
Right.
Clinton was new. So I'm finding the layout of the land. Before I even was a pastor, before I even was voted in, going to the homeowner association meetings, the civil meetings that they had there, the gatherings that they had on Tuesdays, and just getting to know the community. And the whole thing was, God, I know you calling me here, but I have kids in college, kids in private school, and I need to work. So how can this work out? And with that, God said, okay, go to Kettering and ask them to pay your salary. So I went to Kettering, and Pastor Sterling said, okay, we'll pay your salary. And I'm going on my 7th year at Clinton, and this is my 3rd year getting paid by Clinton. The first 4 years was paid by Kettering Baptist Church.
Wow. Now, what was Clinton like when you got there?
So when I got there, they had about 9 active members. So I say a little under 20 members, but it was 9 active members. I met with them. The building had so much deferred maintenance that work haven't been done. They haven't worshiped in the sanctuary in 10 years before I got there because they had no air conditioning, no heat. So they worship in the fellowship hall, which is a small room. They will park in the back of the church. So when you ride past on Sunday, it looked like nothing is going on. Things wasn't maintained just because of the age of the church and no leadership. Their pastor had passed away. Pastor Dr. Jones, Gerald Jones, had passed away 4 years before I was even selected as the pastor. But they did have an interim, which was Pastor Reeves, who was up in age, and he did his best, but they didn't see him as the pastor, so he had trouble there. But that was the state. That was the state. They had no gospel footprint in the community at all. As a matter of fact, we sit on close to 10 acres of land, and I would knock on doors adjacent to the church and say, hey, I'm the new pastor at Clinton. I'd love to have you come over and see our ministry and what we're doing. They say, well, where's that at? And I said, if you look out your back door, it's right there. And they had although it was this big building in their backyard, they had no clue it was a church.
All right, so we got to address a few things.
Okay.
First,
All right.
you start going in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Why? Like, what made you think you're going to start knocking on doors, getting to know neighbors, going to homeowner association? What made you want to do that? I mean, it's brilliant. I think that's what we should do, but...
One, I needed to know the people. I needed to know the people, what they look like, how they sound, what they dress like. And I think that's important. Really, I always understood not being in the community, but being of the community. And that just grew up in my fabric and my culture of DC. I am DC. Like,
Right.
That's just me. I'm still Joe, and all that other stuff is raining like a mug, you know, those terms that people don't understand. And so I understand the culture and fabric and how important it is in every community. And I think the pastor should understand that. The pastor should understand that. Not that I'm trying to be them, but I at least have to know what I'm involved in and what the community look like and how I can engage them even better by understanding them. So that was important to me. As a matter of fact, I went to a meeting and I found out that at every meeting they give the new person at the meeting 5 minutes to speak. So I was like, okay. So they said, okay, any new people here? You got 5 minutes. So I got up. I said, hey, I just moved at 8701 Woodyard Road in Clinton, Maryland. And people looking funny because it was an older crowd. They was like, that's the church. You moved there? And I was like, yeah, I'm the new pastor. And I don't know y'all don't know me, but we here to serve this community. And I just want to show you my face and get to know you all so we can work together to change the spiritual appetite of this community. And that's what I did in every meeting I went into, even with the councilman, which was Councilman Sidney Harrison at the time, with the homeowner association meetings, also the civic meetings that they have there, neighborhood watch meetings. I did the same thing just to go in these meetings and engage before I even stepped in as the pastor of Clinton Baptist Church.
So I want to tie that in, but we'll come back to that. So you
Yes.
come to this, so you start to kind of navigate your way through the community, but you are doing that, but you still can't meet in your building. You don't have AC. They haven't met in there in almost a decade. How did you get from that point to meeting in there? What had to happen, and what did God do to get you guys back in that facility?
Okay, so when I was selected as the pastor, we have a fellowship hall that had a package unit in it that was heat pump that had air and heat. It only holds about 100 people. So they were meeting in there, but I know in the African American culture that the sanctuary is sacred. We want to be in a sanctuary. Yeah. We want to have church in a sanctuary. Now I know that, trends change in the dark sanctuaries and the smoke and all that stuff. And that's what other people, but I know from culture, we feel God in the sanctuary. So I made it clear to the 9 people that we got to get back in the sanctuary. We got to get back. So on my installation, we cleaned up the sanctuary, got everything as nice and neat as we could after 10 years of vacancy. And we had over 600 people at my installation, and it was no heat.
Wow.
And my installation, my wife and I installation was on September the 29th, my birthday. September the 29th in 2019, and it was hot, burning up. I mean, I went in with a tie, and I came out with my shirt buttoned down like I was on GQ magazine. But people stayed, and it showed the love that people have for my wife and I and my family, and just the village that I have around me to pack out that place. And everybody stayed. We had a wonderful time, and so that was inspiring to me, that we can go forward. We can go forward. And so now we having service in the sanctuary, and it's October, the first Sunday in October, I believe it was October the 6th. That was my first Sunday there. We had it in the sanctuary. Now here it is, I got to go backwards. Because remember, before I even accepted position and before I even got voted in, God gave me the vision and gave me these 12 sermons.
Right.
October the 6th to the beginning of the year was 12 weeks.
Wow.
And those was the 12 sermons I preached.
Wow.
And it was 4 on we grow, 4 on we serve, and 4 on we love. And so for October, we looked at growing, we looked at serving, and we looked at loving. And I started off at Acts chapter 2, verse 40 through 47, what is our vision, that a church will last who's preached the gospel. And that's what we started out with. That's amazing. So now going there, we having service because it's wintertime. I mean, it's not really need air conditioning, and we don't need heat. And there's only a few people. I think the first Sunday we had 124 people there. Which was astonishing. We coming from 9 to 15 people on Sunday. Before I got there, now we have 124 people. And then next thing you know, we averaged about 100. And then 2000 come, and now we in the pandemic. And now the pandemic for us was a blessing for Clinton Baptist Church because we didn't have to worship in the service because we had no air conditioning, no heat. So we went immediately online to Facebook Live and Instagram Live, and from there we have grown. We have grown. We start to see people join online and in our ministry in the way we served and minister to this community and to the online presence, which caused us to be one of the fastest growing churches in Maryland at that time.
Tell them about, if you don't mind, the story about the HVAC.
Okay, so like we said, we didn't have heat or air conditioning. Now, I'm an engineer. I'm a building engineer. I have a stationary engineer. I was third class DC licensed engineer. So I went to school for boilers, HVAC, and cooling towers. So we have a boiler at Clinton Baptist Church, and so the boiler was working, but we didn't have the piping. The piping wasn't, the pumps wasn't circulating pumps, and the piping was leaking and things like that. So we couldn't get it to different areas. So we had to fix that. And then the air conditioning unit in the sanctuary, which is 60 tons, haven't worked in years. So we there in the middle of a pandemic. We doing ministry. We serving our community and doing ministry. And at the time, that was 2021 of June, 2021 around June. I called our core team that was there, which was about 7 of us, and I said, "Hey, it's time for us to start working on this air conditioning and heating, because we don't know when this pandemic going to end, but we're going to have to start working on it." And we had no money in the bank. We had like $5,000 in the bank. And so with my background, I called the engineer company and said, "Hey, can you write us up some specs, give us quotes on this?" Called 3 engineer companies that can also do the work as well. And so we got 3 quotes. One was $106,000, one was $98,000, and one was around $99,000. And so we sat there and we chose the higher one, which was $106,000. And the purpose was that because they gave more information. And I knew as a building engineer, they went into detail. They really did the work and things like that. And I knew that if I went with the cheaper one, it would cost us more on the back end because they didn't figure out this and that and all that. So we agreed to sign the contract in June with no money. With no money down. We ain't had no money. And if they would have asked for a deposit, we'd have been like, but with God's grace, man, and every time I tell the story, it get me emotional. Well, God's grace was so amazing because just standing on faith that God said, Colin, this is time to do it. Now, those around me, faith wasn't as gigantic as mine because they never seen this kind of faith work out.
Right.
And so they was like, we don't have the money. So I said, well, now we need to pray and figure out how we going to get this money. So we have seen it work through campaigns. So I was like, God, maybe I can go. At the time, we had 125 members at that time. So we had 75 giving units. So I said, God, maybe we can just go and ask those 75 giving units to give 1,000 over their tithes and offering in 1 year. And that would give us $75,000. That's close. Like, that's close. We're there, and we can figure out the rest. And God said, no, don't do it that way. One of the deacons that I heard, Deacon Dixon, my brother, OG, I call him OG, he was like, man, just go tell the people and do a campaign. I was like, nah, that's not what God's saying. We got to pray. And as we are praying for this, I get a call from a member saying, hey, Pastor Pugh, can you meet me at the church? And I'm like, it's the middle of the pandemic. I live good 20 minutes away from the church. And I'm like, nah, well, and she said, I want to give you a donation, give the church a donation. I'm like, you can come on Sunday. I know we can't have, people in sanctuary, but I was preaching from the sanctuary with two phones, a Samsung, an iPhone, and 2 lapel mics. Live every Sunday. And I said, just meet us there and you can give it there, or I can have one of the deacons that I heard it come and meet you and you can give it to them. She said, no, I want to give it to you. So we went past, I went over there kicking and screaming, and she said, here's a check for $50,000. And it blew my mind because no one knew. Remember, we in a prayer hold. We on a prayer hold. So no one knew what we were praying about. The congregation, no one knew. This was behind the scene with us 7 people, and she gave a check for $50,000 and said, I love you. I love, your wife, Jeanette, and I love our church, and I just want to bless our church. And so when I presented the check to the group that we signed the contract with, they thought it was fake. Because they never seen it. They was like, is this real? And they was like, can we write a letter? Should we write? I was like, no, it's the same thing. If somebody give $1, we wouldn't write a letter. Right. So they gave $50,000. Why would we write a letter? We're not even going to expose this person. We're just going to thank God and praise God for now hearing our prayers in private, now making it to light. So then now we have $50,000. I get called by an organization. I'm not going to say that organization, but they say, hey, man, you're doing some great work in your replant position, and we just want to highlight you. And they said, do you have any any projects going on? I was like, yes. I said, we putting in a 60-ton air conditioning unit. And they said, well, okay, how much is it? I said, it's $106,000. They said, well, how much money have you raised this far? And I said, oh, we raised $50,000. And they said, we're going to match it.
Wow.
And not only are we going to match it, but we're going to present you as the replanter of the year. And I was like, wow. And then after that, I got a call from my friend, pastor, and he said, hey, I'm in Tampa. Me and my wife selling our home to move back home. But I see the work you're doing on social media. And we selling our home, we making a lot of money, and we want to send your church some money. And they sent $6,000. So we had 3 donors by August. We signed it in June of 2021 in the middle of the pandemic. By August, we had the $106,000 in our bank in cash to pay for that unit. Once they finished it up, like late December, we paid it off in cash. And God, and now those 7 people, those who are still with us at Clinton Baptist Church, and some went home to be in the presence of God, our faith is on fire. It's nothing you can't tell me God can't do. It's nothing that I can look at and say, God, you can't do that. It's nothing. And I tell people all the time, my prayers sound stupid because I know God can do it. Like, I know God can do it. My faith is on fire.
So when we talk about revitalization, you've lived through this.
Yes.
This isn't just, a job, a little hobby, or, a church trend, because, the church adopts trends.
Yes.
This is something you have personally walked a church through, started with 9, not in the sanctuary, all kind of building issues, and God has literally revitalized the church.
Literally revitalized the church, but I would say the community. Because if our church closed today, our community would be impacted.
And
Clinton
why is
Baptist
that?
Church.
Explain that.
Because we are a lifeline to our community. My whole goal was never to revitalize the church. It was to revitalize the community, because I wanted the community to be the church. So I wanted people in this community to know Christ. I wanted crime in our area to go down. I wanted kids in our schools to graduate. I want kids to know Christ. I want families to be whole and domestic violence to be out. I want drugs not to be on our streets in Clinton. I want people to be healthy in Clinton. And that happened through God's leadership, with partnership, amazing partnerships that we have, resources that we have to bless our community with the things that we need. And they are which I call helpful resources. We have a lot of churches that have resources, but is it helpful for your community? So we engage our community to know exactly what our community need, and then we now place those resources in our community. In Clinton Baptist Church, we in District 9 of Prince George's County. District 9 had the highest percentage of heart disease and diabetes in any other district in Prince George's County. So now what do I do with that information? So every Tuesday, with the partnership of MedStar Southern Maryland Hospital, they come every Tuesday to do a diabetic clinic at our church. Nutritionists to come in and weigh in, as well as talk about pre-diabetic, as well, give out diabetic scripts, and it's a year-long process. Not only in that, it was also with their partnership. Now Uber came in and said, hey, if you need a ride, we'll bring you to the church for free and take you back home. But that's through the partnership that MedStar had brought in. So for years, we had this every Tuesday, and you get to meet the doctor and talk to the doctor. And then also doctors come in and talk about heart disease. We did other amazing work with MedStar, where we now have a prostate clinic in our church every year.
Wow.
Every year you come to our church and get a free prostate exam with the blood exam first, and then get the rectal exam at the church by Dr. Chile from MedStar, and you get your results sent to your home. Last year we had like 30 men come. I think it was 13 out of that 30 men never had a prostate exam at all, and they were over the age of 60.
Wow.
No insurance is needed. So just really bringing the resources into the community to change lives. We do mammograms as well. We used to have the mammogram truck, but now they got a better way where they do sonograms. So women can come and we can do sonograms, a mammogram. We have them come and do free mammograms. You don't need insurance. But it's the exam is 30 minutes, so we can't get as many as we would like.
Right.
But we offer us free. We just had an eyeglass clinic.
Wow.
An eyeglass clinic where we had partner with Blindness Prevention of America, based out of D.C. First time ever in Prince George's County they had a free eye clinic.
Wow.
We had a free eye clinic where ophthalmologists, also eye surgeons came, students and everything, and you come in and you get a free eye clinic, no insurance needed at all, and we had a space for 100 people. And then at the end, if you need glasses, you had a chance to pick out your glasses, and they had designer glasses and everything. Get the prescription, transition and everything for absolutely free. And if you need readers, get readers as well for absolutely free. And that made the local news as well, just the ministry that we're doing. So we are not just doing events. We really making impacts in people's life, because I believe spiritually we got to be holistic.
Yeah.
We got to not only feed them spiritually, but we also got to make sure they have jobs, get education, mental health, and the necessities they need to be successful in life. And we're just excited about what is God doing, what the things God doing. So if our church closed, our community will be affected.
So you help churches in the area of revitalization.
Yes.
What are some of the obstacles that stand between a church and being revitalized? What are some of the obstacles churches are facing?
A lot of them would say their obstacle is money. That's what a lot of them would say. Hey, we don't have no money. Send me some money. Send me some money. Send me some money. But it's really seeing that I have to spiritually make an impact in this community. They quickly say, if I get the money, I'm going to get the people so I can do the event. But the event can be a prayer wall. The event can be evangelizing your community, then trying to get some horses and moon bouncers and some cotton candy and bring them to your church, instead of you going out into the community and bringing the church to them. So one of the biggest obstacles I see in revitalization and replanting is people think they need tons of money. And we didn't have tons of money. We just used what we had and let God do all the work. And God changed it. Another thing I see is that leadership. We don't, the pastors are in the way. We got pastors that are in the way. Not because they're not effective, but they just don't want to change. They just don't, they think that, okay, we're going to get back to where we used to be, and that ain't going to happen. That ain't going to happen. Let me say this. In the Old Testament, God was centralized. The temple was here. We had to go to the temple to see God, to worship God, to give our offering to God. But in the New Testament, God is mobilized. We don't have to come to the church to have a relationship with God. We need to come to the church. But a lot of pastors say, hey, Pastor Pugh, how can I get them into the church? And I say, why? Why? What do you have in the church? The church building never saved anyone. The gospel do. So once you get them here, what you gonna give them? and it's the way that the thinking of some of our leadership is an obstacle. Also, church conflict. Not handling church conflict. That's an obstacle. Lack of spiritual prayer and spiritual formation in the church. We can't revitalize and replant churches without God. Jesus has a plan for every church. And that's what I hold to. And that's my desire and my passion. I'm going to work with a church now in D.C. They don't have a pastor. They bringing in pastors. They have a small congregation. And I've been working with them for 3 years. 3 years. And it's a battle. It's a battle. Because again, they think I want to take their church. They called me now, but they think I want to take their church. I didn't reach out to them. They called me and I'm like, hey, I don't need another building. We don't need another building. I'm just trying to help you make an impact in this community you living in for the gospel of Jesus Christ.
What is the emotion that's fueling all this obstruction? What do you think it is? I have a theory on what the emotion is, but what do you think it is? What emotion is telling them don't move in the direction that you moved and your church moved in Clinton that saw all this revitalization? It's got to be some feeling in them that's going, hold on a second, wait a second.
The lack of the Holy Spirit working is them trying to fix it and not letting God fix it. It's them trying to fix it and not let God fix it.
See, but it's scary if you let God fix it.
Not for me. Because he's been doing it the whole time.
Right, not for you,
Yeah,
but I'm just being honest, okay? When you say let God fix it, you know what I hear? Let. You know what that means?
You gotta let go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and what emotion am I gonna feel when you tell me
I lost all control?
And what emotion am I gonna feel when you say, Michael, you need to let go? I'm holding it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say, Michael, you need to let go. I'm thinking, but I got it right now.
Yeah.
And God gave it to me.
Yeah.
And God's using me to hold this. And you said, let it go.
Yes.
I'm afraid.
Yeah. Fear.
It's fear.
Yeah.
Because if I let go, I'm not in control anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And now anything could happen.
Yes. But I'd rather it happen with God than with me. That's where I'm at.
But I'm just saying.
And that's where I'm at. And I understand people have to get through that. That's why I'm so patient with people.
Yeah.
I understand people have to get through that. And I hear people say, man, just let them die. No. It's no gospel footprint. Do you understand how powerful the gospel is? I'm Romans 10:1. Paul had a desire to see all Israel saved.
Right.
I have a desire to see this whole community saved.
Right.
That's my desire. It's
Right.
not let it die.
Right.
It's let God work, because God can restore it. And he will restore it with you or without you.
Yeah, it's true.
And he will restore it. And so just giving a burning desire that in revitalization programs, systems, and cleaning up the building don't work. It's surrendering to God. I was just working on before I came here, this morning I was looking at a PowerPoint that I'm putting together called Winning Your Community for Christ. And I was working on it, and it's real practical. I like practical stuff. I'm a practical guy. So the first thing, if you're going to win your community for Christ got to win you. That's the first thing. Before I give you any steps of winning your community, of how to win your community, how to gauge, connect, desire, and all these praying. If Christ haven't won you, I know that's bad English, ain't won you. If Christ haven't won you, then it's not going to work, because we still dealing on our own power. And I see it, and I notice it, that God is working.
How did you get there, though? How did you get to the point to where you are so committed to God doing it and you playing your part, but letting him play his part? Because many of us aren't there. How'd you get there?
I would say a lot of things. I grew up in DC, had a great childhood. Didn't have to, but I sold drugs. Didn't have to. That was my life. Made a lot of money, made a name for myself. And As a matter of fact, my friends, we still have a group of friends, those who are left. I apologize to them a lot and say I'm sorry because they got locked up because of me. Not that I snitched, I ain't snitching,
Right.
but they got locked up because of me, because they got locked up. We got a 29 count indictment. I'm definitely in there. But the DA was like, hey, we see you working. And I'm like, whatever, and we know, we all know who snitched. We all know who snitched and everything. And we sitting there but God had to move all of them, all 29 of them, to get to me. And I realized that after they got locked up, after I gave my life to Christ years later. I realized that. Because now I'm in my house and I'm sitting there, and I told my wife I was mad at God. I didn't even know God. I'm mad at God. I'm like, God, now, this is what I said. God, who am I hanging with now? You took all my friends away. That's exactly what I said. And my wife said, now you can be a father to your children and you can be a husband to your wife. And immediately that hurt me, because I'm like, I pay all the bills around here, I provide and this and that, because I thought that's what it meant to be a father, to be a husband. So now during this time, as they in prison, God is working on me. God is now connecting me with pastors and people pouring into my life and speaking to me that I need a relationship with him. So when I gave my life to Christ in April of 2000, my wife and I told you we just bought a home, foreclosure, in Lake Arbor. We had a gas bill come. We ain't never had no gas bill. We don't know what no washing gas was. It was $475.63, something like that to the thing. $457.75, 63 cents. So, and Pastor Sterling had preached when I gave my life to Christ, when we walked up there to surrender to Christ, his sermon was, you tried everything else, now try God. That was his closing. You tried everything else, and it hit me. You tried your mother, you tried this, and it didn't. Now try God. So we gave our life to Christ to that. So now we get this bill weeks later, because we just moved into our house. It was $475, activation fee and all this. And I could have easily went back to the streets and got that money. And I told my wife, I said, hey, I'm not going to my mother and ask her for the money, because she's going to say, how you buy a house if you ain't got the money? But we put our last $6,000 in the down payment for the house. And so she said, I'm not going to my mother and father and ask for the money either, because they're going to say the same thing. So I was like, man, I can go to the streets. And I was like, nah, I want to be faithful to God. So, and we just given our life to Christ. We have no clue what we done. And I remember in our living room, I grabbed her hand. I said, let's pray, because Pastor said, try God. You tried everything else, try God. And I grabbed her hand and I said, God, I don't know if you're real, but Pastor said, try you. If you get us this money to pay this bill, I promise you, I'll be sold out for you for the rest of my life. And I made that promise. A day before the bill was due, in the mail, we got a check from escrow, said we overpaid the exact amount that the gas bill was. And from there on, I said, God is real. The God I serve, not a God, but the God I serve, Jesus Christ, is real. Because that can't happen. Whoever pay extra money the exact amount to escrow? That doesn't happen. And ever since then, I said, God, I told you, I'm committed. And now, to go back again, I know I jump in and jump out, but now to go back again, those guys, my friends who I grew up, and now we 50 years old, we've been friends for 50 years. We all grew up together. We all decided to sell drugs together. They're home. They working. And guess what? They gave their life to Christ, and they in Clinton Baptist Church.
That's why you let it go.
They in Clinton Baptist Church now as members, come faithfully with their wives and their children and their grandchildren. That's all God. The same ones who we ran the streets together, now is in church serving God, being placed in leadership, leading their families as men of God for the gospel of Jesus Christ.
So we're having the sustainability conference October 29th. You're doing a breakout
Yes.
on revitalization. You got a lot to say on this subject. I don't know how you fitting it on that breakout. Good luck. What do you want to say to the church, the leader, the pastor who's watching this, and they know my church needs revitalization? What do you want to say to them?
One, I want to encourage you because we are in a time where all the churches need revitalization, and that's in every denomination. We are seeing a plateau and a sharp decline drastically in every denomination right now of churches dying. And if you are in that place as a pastor, I want to let you know, one, you're not alone.
Yep, you're not alone.
You're not alone. We are in this together.
Yep.
Number two, that what you see now, God can do exceedingly abundantly of what you ask of. That God can change your situation. We are having members now who left before I got there, now returning because they see their old church now have life. So now we getting those legacy members who paid for this 10 acres of land now coming back in their 70s, in their 80s and 70s, 80s and 90s,
Wow.
saying, hey, I want to be reconnected back with my church because I'm part of the legacy and history. And God would do that. God would do that. We understand that there are cycles in churches. There are peaks and valleys. But you're not alone. God can turn it around, and there's help out there. There's help out there.
Somebody wants help from you. How do they get involved in a revitalization process or get help from you? How does that happen?
Okay, so under Sin Network as a renewal specialist, I work with urban churches in the United States. We hold to the pastor first, but we love to also serve the state convention and local associations. And one of our goals is to help the state convention and the local associations also understand the process of revitalization, the practical processes of revitalization, because we just can't meet with every pastor.
Yep.
So if we have, and we come together with those, and we have a great convention here and great associations here that have now, is excited about revitalization, so they can walk the churches that are under their leadership through this. But if they want to get in touch with me, you can go to sinnetwork.com and to renewal, and you can find me on there and send me an email, or you can just direct me at ClintonBaptistChurch.org, where I serve as a pastor there. And we're just grateful to serve pastors and serve associations and also state conventions that we may see renewal happen, because Jesus has a plan for every church.
That's amazing. Thanks for being here today, man. It's encouraging.
I appreciate it.
Grace and peace, y'all.